Hey, everybody. Well, I'm here with Dana once again. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Steve. Hi, everybody.
So, as long as we're here, you want to talk about Batman some more?
Well, I guess. I mean,
Mm,
that's what you said the video was going to be about.
we
So we're
kind of,
kind of,
we, yeah,
I mean, it is your channel, so I guess you call the shots.
we did kind of say we would. So,
Yeah,
um,
promises, promises.
specifically, as we teased in the last Batman video, we're going to talk about Batman and his special relationship. Much like the special relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom, the special relationship between Batman and the cops. And what's the deal with Batman and the cops anyway?
Let's find out,
Let's
Steve.
find the question that we sort of started with in our notes is whether or not Batman, just basically, like conceptually, is pro cop or anti cop. And obviously, this depends on the particular take of Batman that we're talking about, because there are some versions of Batman that are more or less, but like generally speaking, is Batman pro cop or anti cop or somewhere in between?
Well, obviously, the answer is somewhere in between. I mean,
when you
let's,
when you give that as an option, it's like, okay, it's that one, right?
yeah, yeah, come on. I mean, take the third option, obviously. Um, Well, so let's look at the ways in which Batman, well, is pro cop. Since you mentioned that one first, let's start there.
Yes.
So, I mean, obviously, um, while he does dispense his own brand of justice, he doesn't go the whole. He doesn't create his own like justice system. He works with the existing justice system. So, he catches criminals and leaves them
Right.
for the police.
Right. He is like,
Only not with spider webbing.
no, not with a happy little note. Your friendly neighborhood Batman. Um,
No, no, no. He says, this is so and so, and he leaves it like stabbed to him with an extra batarang.
yeah, just embedded in the guy's like peck or something. Here, it's not going to kill him. It's just going to hurt.
He's
He
got
does.
muscles. That's what they're for.
He.
Wait, that's not what they're for.
They're not for stabbing.
Darn it! I mean, they hold the knife, the blade so
Yeah.
well.
Thanks for that, Frank Miller, a Batman who stabs people with his
Well, okay,
batarangs.
the batarang thing has been. Although I guess, like when you watch it in the animated series, they kind of hit somebody and bounce off. They don't actually.
Yeah,
But I mean, if it's in the shape of the bat with the points at the
it
ends,
is pointy.
sometimes it's somebody's going to get jabbed.
Accidents happen even when you're Batman. Actually, probably especially when you're Batman. You're like throwing those things
I,
at everybody.
no, no. When
Hmm.
you're Batman, you know what you're doing, and it's not an accident.
No, I got him. I got him. Robin, did you see that? I got him. So yeah, and also he has allies in the police. I
Yes.
mean,
Some.
mainly Jim Gordon, but there are other. It depends. Again, it depends on which version of the character you're talking about. How is Batman anti-cop? You see that? How I dragged it right back onto the road?
Very smoothly.
Thank you.
Brilliant segue there.
Nobody could even, it's seamless.
He does the things that the cops can't do.
Right.
That's because they're illegal.
Right. The cops aren't allowed to do those things for good reasons.
Allowed to, legal or illegal is gray area. But yeah, the whole thing of breaking the law.
Yeah. Actually, my one of my favorite takes on Batman, and I always, most versions of Batman kind of touch on this from time to time, and I always really dig it, is like fugitive Batman, when he is doing his Batman thing and going after supervillains, but he is also a target of the police. Like the police are treating him like a criminal too. It's one of my favorite takes on Batman.
So unfair, man.
There was an episode,
I'm help the city.
all right,
My city.
and I'm always a little disappointed that we don't see more of that, because in Batman the animated series, I remember, because Batman animated series started when I was like 12, and I was like in
Oh
the
my God.
well, you were what, 14 when it started? Because you're 2 years older than me. So if I was
I
12,
guess I guess so.
you
But I mean, I didn't see it until I was a senior.
right. So
So
you didn't watch it like from the very beginning.
yeah.
I watched it from the very beginning, and
Well, you're
The
just special.
yes. I was the only one who watched it when it first started. Everybody else discovered it after I had already seen it. One of the
How they
first
got the Emmy, I'll never know.
one of the first episodes of, and in fact, I think it was the first episode they produced, but it wasn't the first episode they actually aired. But it was one of the first episodes that they aired, was the first Man Bat episode on
Mhm.
Leather Wings, and a subplot in that is that the Gotham City Police, because they're a bunch of clueless dipshits, see Man Bat flying around and they think that he's Batman. So they
Well,
whenever
he's a bat and he's a man,
yeah
so
yeah it's sure he's, because when you see like a giant werewolf looking mutant bat creature and you think, oh, it's Batman. But so anyway, so they think that Batman is breaking into places, and
he's doing crime.
he's not like killing people because it's the animated series, but he's like, yeah, he's doing crimes. So they chase Batman when they see him, thinking that he's guilty of all this stuff that Man Bat did, and they used some of that in the promos for the show. So when I would see these commercials for, like, coming soon, Batman the Animated Series, or don't miss the exciting premiere of Batman the Animated Series, and they would show clips of Batman like being chased by the cops. And I was watching this going, oh, that's so cool. Like, the cops are going to be after Batman and he's going to have to like run from the cops while he's Batman. And then it was just that one episode.
So, I mean, you could write Fugitive Batman.
I could. We could.
I don't know if I'm going to be doing it. I've got too much.
Well,
Oh,
we could
got too much work to do. And
conceive of Fugitive Batman.
like what has he done? Is it like
He's-
with Man Bat? Is it unjustified? Is it something been pinned on him, or he has taken the fall for somebody or something?
See-
Or is it has he done something that the cops are just like, nope, too much, too far.
I would propose that he has done something, and that something he has done is be Batman. Like, I think that's one of the things I find really interesting about, if you focus on Batman's relationship with the cops and you make it more of an antagonistic relationship. Batman doesn't need to do anything else other than be Batman. Being Batman is illegal. He's a vigilante.
Illegal,
You can't be Batman. You're not supposed to be Batman.
So that would have to happen relatively early on in the timeline.
Yeah. And
we don't have a lot planned for early on, so maybe that could be something.
And it also it introduces an added layer of tension with Commissioner Gordon, because I do think that there needs to be, and this is very relevant for our discussion here, but it's also relevant for any time I think you're trying to work out Batman and what your take on the character is. I think the relationship between Batman and Jim Gordon is foundational.
Yeah.
And if the police department is treating Batman as a criminal, and police department procedure or policy is, if you can catch Batman, catch him, don't, like, we're not trying to let him get away with this. But Jim Gordon is Batman's ally. That creates a lot of added weight on Gordon's shoulders, which I think is really interesting.
I mean, maybe that's the Fugitive Batman story. How Gordon came to be on Batman's side. Maybe he wasn't always. Maybe he was one of the ones chasing Batman, but something happened and he saw something that other people or that most of the other cops didn't see. And he realized the potential that was there. And, he saw something that the others didn't.
In Batman Year One, it's what finally seals the deal is Batman saves the life of Gordon's son.
But also, it makes me think of what we just read in Under the Jolly Roger, where Jackie Faber has been pressed, and she's being taken aboard to serve in the Royal Navy because they think she's a guy.
Yeah.
Because she's dressed as a guy and she's acting like a guy and not like a lady because she ain't one. But anyway, so she goes to get away, and she jumps off the ship because they're only about a quarter mile offshore, and she's like, I can make it.
I'm going to go for it.
I'm out. I don't want to be here. And And so she jumps off the ship and starts swimming for shore. And they lower a boat, just, one of the, a small, I think it even has a sail.
Yeah.
So they come after her, and they catch up to her, but she ducks down under, and she yanks on one of the oars when they come, as they get close. She yanks on one of the oars, and that sailor falls over, and she's like, oh, great, they're going to have to fish him out and I'll get away. And they don't. They're just like, oh, poor Billy, he's going to drown.
Right. Yeah. They keep going after her. Yeah.
No. They stay there. They're just like, oh, what are we going to do? And because she realizes that none of them can swim.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. So she has to, if she doesn't save him, then he's going to drown. Yeah.
And fishes him out. And as she's like lunking him back into the boat, they grab her.
Yeah.
But because they've been given orders, they have to take her, and so they let her. If they let her get away, if she gets away and they fail, they're going to be punished. If they let her get away, it's dereliction of duty.
Yeah.
Death. It's swinging from a yardarm there, especially with the rotten captain that they've got. By the way, this is the Jolly Roger. The Jackie Favor series, really, really good. Love it. So anyway, but it earns her some friends on the ship because she sacrificed her freedom. Because one of them says, you would have gotten away if you hadn't stopped to save Billy's life. Right. And I think, so it's not, that might have, something along those lines might have made not an impression just on Jim himself, but on anyone who saw that, Batman put his own safety or, his own goals at risk to do what was best for, the people. And because, ultimately, I think Batman really, the cops are a means to an end for him. Mm-hmm. For him, it's about the people of the city, the residents. So
that's how I would like to write him. That's how I would like to see him portrayed in other media. I think, and actually that's a good segue to get to one of the next things in our notes about this, which is how would Batman react to street protests, especially street protests that are predicated on abuses of the police, like Black Lives Matter.
I think it would be really interesting to see, as a storytelling challenge, if you could have Batman take the side of the police and write it well. I don't know if you could. With how the protests went this summer, if you could,
I think you,
especially a little later on when it got really bad. With the militarized police and, and people getting just picked up and shoved into vans. That's like,
I think you could, but I think you would have to have Batman have an awakening at some point. Like, I don't think you could write it as Batman being on the side of the cops all the way through. I feel like maybe you could start it where Batman is like, oh, it's chaos in the streets, we need law and order, like the old, the typical white person sort of objection to street protests. It's like, oh, I believe in what they're fighting for, but why do they have to be so violent?
Because it escalates. And typically the police are better armed than the protesters.
Yeah.
And if the protesters get better armed, then the police, go out and get better weapons.
They bring out the tank. Yeah, exactly.
More, they bring out larger guns.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that works, but because I can see Batman seeing the escalation. But the other thing that I was thinking was, in Chattanooga, when we had some early protests, mm-hmm. The police worked with, not directly with, but the police supported the organizers in directing traffic especially in those early days, they didn't try to say, no, you have to go here, not there, or no, you can't protest anymore, anything like that.
Yeah.
That did happen later. There was more escalation, as things went on, and the situation nationwide escalated as well. And I think the most interesting thing for me would be Gordon trying to do the right thing. And then, of course, there's pressure from external sources as well saying, we need to shut this down.
That's one of the things that sets Gordon apart from the other cops in Gotham, even before he becomes an ally to Batman. And in fact, in most modern tellings of the character, the thing that attracts Batman to him in the first place is that he is the good cop. He's Frank Serpico. He's the one who isn't corrupt, who isn't in with the mobsters, who doesn't break the law, who doesn't, take a little bit skim a little off the top for himself, or rough up a suspect, or cheat the rules a little bit to get an arrest or a conviction or whatever. He's a good cop. He goes by the book, and Batman sees him and he's like, oh, look, the one good cop in this entire city. I think I need to make friends with this guy. And this, I think, is a really good place to talk about that Twitter thread that we've mentioned.
Yes.
Because, and I have it up on my screen here, and I'll link it in the video description to anybody who hasn't seen this. This was back in August that Sean Kelly did a Twitter thread about just sort of some of the problematic stuff about Batman, and that this is a problem, that we're sort of idolizing this character. And if you sort of strip away a lot of the more heroic aspects of him, he's a guy who is able, because of his wealth and because of his physical prowess and the other things, his other attributes, he's able to go out and take the law into his own hands and beat up criminals and brutalize people, and get away with it. And how does that make
Honestly,
him?
you know what that makes me think of?
What?
Trump.
Oh,
and followers, and how they
yeah.
How much, I mean, it's a power fantasy. They adore him because they wish that they could say, and I mean, it's understandable when you are disempowered, the idea that you can say and do whatever you want is like, man, that would be really nice.
Yeah.
And that's, that take on Batman, it's a power fantasy. Because he's rich and because his wealth and his obsession has allowed him to build up, his resources and his physical skills and his physical ability, he can do whatever he wants and he can get away with it.
I think every superhero has that inherent element of power fantasy. And if that becomes the focal point of the character, if that becomes the main thrust of your storytelling with Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Captain America, you name your superhero, then I think that is not only is that a recipe for making the character not as interesting, but that's how
Not
you would
heroic.
Not heroic. And that's how you attract fans who basically just project their violent impulses into the character, which I think is not something I ever want to be a part of.
But at the same time, I think bringing that, I think it's also important to explore that, to look at that, and then to, through the narrative, say, no,
yes,
this
exactly.
is not okay, not healthy. And I think especially with Batman, because he doesn't have superpowers, so he's more, like Superman, other than Lex Luthor, tends to have, aliens and mostly aliens and sorcerers and like demigods and all sorts of stuff as his counterparts, his villainous counterparts. Whereas with Batman, it tends to be regular people, who, or maybe hopped up on drugs or with enhanced abilities in some way, but often it's regular people. And so having him exert his power and influence to hunt someone down and take them down, and especially early on when he's sort of going through becoming who he is, I think, and especially since he has Alfred there as sort of the, the voice of caution, how the idea of how far is he willing to go, and establishing that through narrative, and having him get to that point, or possibly, possibly crossing realizing that he has crossed where the line is for him.
Oh, absolutely. That's really, I think that's the best way to address the problematic elements of the character, which we mentioned this in the fascism video, which is you make them, you make them an explicit part of the character, and you explore them and you acknowledge them, and have the character working through them as a part of your story.
Take them to the breaking point, you crush them, then you allow them to scrape their way back out of the pit that you have tossed their waste frame into. Ha.
Exactly.
I'm a horrible, horrible person.
Oh, I wouldn't say so.
Of course not.
Wow. And then you just dismiss it. You're just shrugging. Of course you wouldn't.
You're biased.
Whatever.
Yeah.
In this Twitter thread, actually the main suggestion that Sean Kelly makes to address a lot of the problems with Batman through storytelling and through finding a different way to present Batman has to do with fundamentally changing his relationship to the police. And that is to make the man who murders Bruce Wayne's parents, who is in most versions, that's Joe Chill is his name, to make Joe Chill a cop, so that the man who murders Bruce Wayne's parents and effectively creates Batman is a cop. And Bruce knows this. Like this isn't like a shock to him. Like Bruce grows up in the wake of his parents' death, knowing that his parents were taken from him by a cop.
And that kind of brings us to one of our other points. Is, that what should policing look like? Does being on the side of the people mean being against the police? Is it possible to have a system of policing, and what would that look like, that actually is on behalf of the people?
Just by the nature of what Batman does, I feel like Batman, by his mere existence, is acknowledging that from his point of view, at least, and of course he's not necessarily right, but from his point of view, some kind of policing is necessary. Some kind of law enforcement, whatever that looks like, whatever their responsibilities are. There are people in society who are unscrupulous, who are violent, who take advantage of people, who are abusive and dangerous, and those people need to be dealt with in some way. So I don't think Batman would be someone who would say we shouldn't have any police of any kind. But I do think, and this is something we talked about and something that we wrote down in our notes for this, I do think if you want to explore that question and explore that issue, you have two perfect foils for that in the persons of Batman and Jim Gordon. Because we could pitch it so that Batman eventually becomes this guy who believes in really, really like transformational police reform, so that it fundamentally changes the role of the police department in a city, the way people think about the police, the way the police themselves think about their jobs and their responsibilities and their relationship to the people. And Jim Gordon is maybe sympathetic to that, but can't get on board with such a radical change, you know?
That brings the whole secret identity into question, because of course he's going to have more cachet with that as Bruce Wayne than he would as Batman.
Yeah, and then that brings in like, how do we want to portray Bruce? Because if Bruce himself is publicly advocating for radical police reform, then that kind of takes carefree Playboy Bruce off the table.
But he's also a chess master archetype. So yeah. Publicly, he doesn't know a whole lot about that, but the offhanded, careless remarks that he makes that go in the society pages happen to say things that get people to think about police reform. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
he's theoretically that good, but he also has lots of influence through people who know people. Like he could support certain candidates or certain newscasters who want to tell certain stories or things like that. And the reasons that he gives for supporting them would be something else.
Right.
But the real reason that he's supporting them is because they also support radical reform and significant structural change to policing.
The idea of Batman and Gordon sort of being at odds, and the thing that they're at odds about ultimately isn't the lawlessness of what Batman does as Batman. It's
What the
Batman.
law should be.
Yeah, it's
how it should be enforced.
exactly. It's Batman coming to this place where he decides that policing in Gotham, or policing in Gotham specifically, because that's Batman's whole life revolves around Gotham. But policing, by extension, policing in other places too, should radically change. And Gordon being like, I can't follow you that far.
I can see Gordon being like, so what are you, when you talk about radical reform, sort of like you sometimes are with some of your audience members. All right.
What does it look like?
Yeah. Say you want a revolution. What does that look like? So what do we end up if we don't have this structure? What do we have instead? And we're thinking about how that structure has come to exist and what purposes and whose purposes it serves. There are some, especially in Gotham, there are powerful people whose interests are served by the police.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
And it comes down to how people become who they become and putting other structures in place, because policing as we have it now is highly reactionary. Mm-hmm. It's after the fact. It's finding out who killed whom, and not as you would hope, de-escalating problematic situations, finding situations that could become problems and fixing things before they become problems. That would be, a more viable solution to, police reform, is reducing the need for police through other social structures, other societal structures.
We're sort of illustrating why a story like this is so useful in exploring the complexities of a real life problem. Like, what the hell do we do about the police in this country? Because as we're sitting here talking about it, I'm trying to sort of imagine the conversations that Commissioner Gordon and Batman would have, or the problems that they would identify and try to solve. And for instance, what you were talking about a few minutes ago about people who become cops because of a power fantasy, because they like being able to stand on someone's neck, because they enjoy the rush of the authority of the police officer.
No, that's not what I said. And they become that person, I think.
Well, yeah.
After being a cop,
the job makes them into that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the solutions to that problem, not the only solution, certainly, but one of the solutions to that problem is to just make it easier to fire cops. When a cop becomes a problem and becomes abusive or becomes difficult to control, or you can't rely on them anymore to do what they're supposed to do, to just make it easier to fire them. But Commissioner Gordon would say, well, that sounds nice, but the police union would have to sign off on that. And the police union's never going to go for that. They're never going to agree to let me fire cops more easily. So that's a no-go, because every cop is a member of the police union pretty much. And they're not, we can't do it. So then Batman might come back and say, well, then we just need to get rid of the police department, which is something that in real life that other cities have done. No city as large as Gotham has ever done it, but there have been smaller cities and towns that have done just that have completely gotten rid of their police department, which basically means firing everybody and then starting it back up from scratch. But then the problem is, Well, what happens while we're putting together the new police department in a city as violent and as corrupt and as ruled by criminals as Gotham? How do you stop a bad situation from getting even worse
Yeah.
when you've gotten rid of the police department, or at the very least you have disempowered it because you've let everybody know we're getting rid of the police department and we're just working out how we're going to replace it or how we're going to rebuild it or whatever, and you've created this vacuum. And the crooks in Gotham are like, hell yeah, it's party time. And then you've made a bad situation worse. So it's not as simple as we might want it to be. It's not as simple as just saying, well, let's just get rid of the police department and we'll do something else, because there are a lot of moving parts that need to be taken into account before you do something like that. And in a story like Batman, where you've basically set it in the worst possible city, like this night.
Except for Bloodhaven.
Oh, that's right, Bloodhaven, the
Because it's
city,
worse.
the city that you've never heard of. I mean, it's been like 20 years, so we can't say that anymore. But the city that you've never heard of
They invented to be worse than the worst city.
as of the 90s, and it's like, oh yeah, this other place is actually even worse. Okay.
I don't even remember where I read it, but it was great. It was my favorite takedown is, I mean, you've heard about how awful New York City is, but let me tell you about Newark.
Exactly. It's even worse because you can't just have Nightwing just go to another city. It has to be another city that's even worse than Gotham. So yeah, have we covered everything that we wanted to cover? Is there anything that we've left on the table that you want to make sure we get to?
I think honestly, it would be interesting to take a look at the different kinds of dirty cops, or not just dirty cops, the different kinds of bad cops, those who are abusive, those who are overly aggressive, those who just want to close the case and are willing to take the easy way out.
Well, don't you think? Go ahead.
Thinking in terms of both how the job shapes them, and not just the job, but specifically the job in Gotham, and the different factors, being around other cops who aren't good people, who make bad choices for varying reasons, being in a situation where maybe they feel overwhelmed by the amount of crime that's in Gotham, by the external forces, that this is how we do things, this is how it's done here, just all of the cyclical and structural, it's bigger than me and I can't do anything about it. People who maybe could have been like Gordon but weren't, and why weren't they? But also, the sorts of people who choose to become cops for different reasons. For some it is, we talked about power fantasy earlier. For some, that's part of it. And of course it's rarely just one reason. For some, it's somebody that they knew. It's or they saw somebody, or somebody made a difference to them. I'm gonna share a story that's not mine, and this person has not given me permission to share it, but I'm going to anyway, because ain't none of you gonna know who it is, so I'm okay with it. There's somebody I know who has depression, and at one point was somewhere where they were up high and it wasn't safe. And there was a police officer who came and talked with them, and got them to step down from where they were. And the police officer, they called for there were medical services, and so this person was taken to the hospital. Well, the police officer came in the ambulance with them and stayed with them, and got to the hospital, and they were checked out, and the police officer stayed with them while they were checked out, and stayed with them after he was, after the end of his shift, kept staying there. And, this person was in a really dark place, obviously. And this police officer stayed with them and eventually had to leave, but gave them his business card.
Yeah.
And said, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you. And that's not, that is one specific thing, but sort of like Batman can't do it all. Not every police officer is going to have that kind of skill.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly not every police officer is trained to respond effectively. But as first responders, police officers have opportunities to make a difference, to respond in nonviolent ways, in ways that de-escalate confrontation,
Right.
And reduce violence rather than increasing it. So it is possible for policing to be done in a way that is not harmful, that guides and helps and supports rather than escalates and punishes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think somebody I could, you could do a really good dark story about someone who was influenced by an experience like that, by someone who made a difference for them. And then they became a cop in Gotham.
Yeah.
And they want to make a difference. And they're trying to, and everything gets in the way. And they, they're trying to make a difference. So they start, doing what they can, like Batman does, and maybe if it's not exactly by the book, well, maybe the problem is the book. I mean, they've got all these structures that are preventing them and all these, people who are just on the take and
Yeah.
And they, in attempting to be able to do, to make Gotham safer and to help, the people of Gotham, they make some compromises and behave in ways that are unethical. And it becomes easier and easier to do that. And they end up becoming what they became, a police officer, in order to not have, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's a way of illuminating the problems with the system itself.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we mentioned in our notes that we haven't talked about, and I'm going to go in a slightly different direction with this than you indicated in the notes, but I'll mention what you originally say, which is you mentioned like sort of the capitalist mindset in criminal justice of, well, criminals should be made to pay for their crimes, right?
Yeah.
But I also was thinking when we talk about like why do people become cops and what makes someone become a bad cop, and in a lot of circumstances, it's not capitalist oriented thinking. It's literally like financial pressure. It's people who get a job as a cop, and especially if we imagine they're working in a city like Gotham City, which is not a nice place to live and is a very high pressure situation. And if you have an opportunity to make a little extra money, to put some extra cash in your pocket under the table, to do favors for some people, to, okay, maybe, okay, I catch this one guy and I'll maybe I just let him go because his boss, doesn't want him arrested, and he gives me a little something on the side for that. Or he wants to have my phone number in his contacts if he needs something, if he just needs a favor, he just needs a little bit of grease for something like that. Why, if you have that opportunity, like it's a tough world. And I have bills to pay and I have a family to feed. And are you really going to tell me to leave the money on the table? because
Yes.
it's the right thing to do. I mean, that's not an excuse for people doing that, but that pressure is there, and it's difficult to say to a person who got into it because of that. I mean, maybe if they've been that kind of a cop for a long time and they've done a lot of really really bad shit, then it's less sympathetic. But if you think about what got them into it in the first place was, hey kid, it's a tough world. You got to take care of yourself. And if you have an opportunity to do a little better, you should take it because it's rough out there. It's tougher to simplify that and to say to say, well, he still shouldn't have done it. I mean, ethically, of course,
Yeah.
he shouldn't have, but
I don't know. I think if we were going to rate that story, we'd have to rate it a little bit differently because yes, he
mhm,
leads money. Well, it's just money is too obvious, you know. But smaller gifts, um, or things that aren't aren't monetized, um, you know, gift card to take your family out to eat.
right, just a little
That
favor here and there,
or just and yeah,
something
tickets
to
to a
make your life easier.
you help somebody who's on what are the Gotham mascots, the Knights, somebody
Yeah,
who's in the
sure.
Knights,
Yeah,
and they're like, that really, thank you, you saved my life. You know you get, just let me know when you want to come and I'll make sure you can get into the box. There's no monetary value in that. You're not, like, they're not even giving you a ticket. It's just a call.
hmm, and it seems innocent enough.
And it does. And the other thing is, because the police force itself is corrupt. Maybe you go and you're just like, does this count as a gift? And so, you ask somebody and they're like, it's not like he's giving you money. Sure, I mean, you saved his life, dude. What the heck? What's
Right.
wrong with you? It's a ball game. Who cares, dude? You bless your little heart. You're such a newbie. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. And they're just like, don't worry about it. And you're just like, oh, okay. I want to make sure it was okay.
Because what happens is you start out with, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, don't worry about it. Oh, don't worry about it. And it escalates and escalates. And in 100 years, you wind up with Gotham City, and then you need Batman.
He is vengeance. He is the night. So we've probably missed some stuff. So tell us in the comments, and we'll apologize in our next video, and we'll deal with whatever that is.
whatever the next
Totally
Batman.
forgot. Sorry,
We
but
didn't work that out yet. But yeah. What is Batman? Is Batman a cop?
no.
Does he have to be, or is he cop-ish? Is
Oh,
he
he is coppish.
is
He's
he
coppish.
and must he be? Is he inherently coppish, or is it possible to do Batman in a way that he is
I
not
mean,
so
he's
coppish?
the
And
world's greatest detective, dude.
he's always going to be a little coppy because he's solving crimes and such. But yeah, if you all
Well,
watching have better ideas for,
we didn't touch on that. I'll bring up really quick is
please.
that as the world's greatest detective and solving crimes, again, that is reactionary.
Right, the
That's
crime has already happened by
Yes,
definition when
this is,
Batman
yeah.
gets there. Yeah.
And so in talking about de-escalation and structural solutions, that's where the Wien Foundation comes in. But when we've talked about sort of setting up the notes, it's the Wien Foundation and charitable giving and setting up structures that create more opportunities for the people of Gotham. That's nice. Not particularly riveting storytelling.
No.
It's like, oh, it's about you have that heartwarming ending where people have better jobs and safer employment and better
Mhm.
hours where they can spend more time with their families and still get their work done and not be exploited. And that's really great. But it's not exciting as like fist to the face.
You were almost quoting Pete Seeger lyrics there. without even realizing it. You'll get shorter hours, better working
Oh, I thought
conditions.
I was like, I don't remember fist to the face
No,
being
not fist to the face. That classic Pete Seeger folk song, everybody loved to sing along with Fist to the Face. And now we're going to sing a song I wrote in 1962 called Fist to the Face. Everybody. He's strumming his banjo. No.
alas,
Bet you
yeah.
didn't think we'd have a Pete Seeger reference in a Batman video, huh, folks?
uh, well, but I mean, you can't. I guess you can. There are lots of things to talk about with Batman, but definitely classism and the plight of the working stiff is part of that. I mean, it's really part of what makes Gotham Gotham. The wealth disparity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why not do something about that with Batman? I mean, he's a rich guy.
Come on, Batman.
It's right there.
Jeez.
Come on, Batman.
Millions and millions. Bruce Wayne.
God, what an asshole.
But not as much of an asshole as Lex Luthor. The Jeff Bezos of the fictional world. Oh. He's like, I'm going to be like that guy.
He's like Jeff Bezos, only not as evil.
They're both bald.
No, that's Dana. That's very superficial of you.
It is, but I'm just saying, in addition to the actual evilness and the richness and the smug self-importance, my goodness, wow.
The striking thing about Jeff Bezos is when he decided to go with the full head shave and just be completely bald, there must have been somebody in his inner circle who was like, Jeff, they're going to say you're Lex Luthor, and he was okay with that.
But was there though? Because I mean, at that point, he was already really, really rich, and when you're that levels of rich, people just say yes.
Lex who? No, Jeff. Nobody will make that comparison. Don't worry. Nobody in our pop culture obsessed world will ever compare you to Lex Luthor, the most infamously evil rich person in popular fiction.
The what?
The most infamously evil rich person in popular fiction.
Oh, infamously evil rich person.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I can't think of anybody else.
Post-crisis anyway. Pre-crisis Lex was just a mad scientist.
Just mad scientist.
They didn't Trumpify him until crisis.
Until Trump.
Yeah.
Until Trump was rich, but not yet president.
Exactly. Because actually,
those were the days, folks.
Remember when he was just an asshole, but he wasn't in charge of everything? Oh, that was nice, wasn't it? Oh. That was nice. Anyway, I think we've run far enough afield that we can
call it a night.
We can call it a day. So thanks everybody for watching. Please, if you have suggestions for how to fix Batman or or like an interesting idea for how to address some of these problems with Batman and policing and his relationship with the Gotham City Police Department or anything else, please
or
share
the
with
most
us.
We talked about Bullock and Montoya.
Oh yeah.
And Gordon and Chief O'Hara.
Oh, Chief O'Hara.
Yeah, so interesting. I definitely as we continue exploring fan fiction, I'd love to see some interesting takes on just who is in the Gotham Police Department, and how they became the officers they did, and why they made the choices they did, and that sort of thing. I think that'd be interesting to explore in story.
Yeah.
People are complicated creatures.
And why the cancellation of Gotham Central is evidence that DC Comics is just a shithole. Because that was such a great book. And what were they like? I don't know. That's just me. I'm still not over it. It's been like 15 years. I'm still like, why'd they cancel Gotham Central? I don't know. I guess you never read that one.
I did. I didn't read it. It didn't run that long.
It didn't really last that long. No, I think there were because I read it in trade paperback, and I think there were maybe 5 or 6 volumes, if even that many.
Yeah.
Before they canceled it.
I mean, I think it's hard to do something new. It's hard to do something different. And especially with comics being an ongoing medium. I don't know. I think it works better to have, like, this is the story we're going to tell, and tell that story.
And have it be like a limited thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
I just, you run into a crisis. many crises, and
it seems like once every 10 years you run into a crisis and you have to.
And like they keep getting closer together.
Yeah, now it's like every 6 months they're like, we got to reboot
again.
Like, are you sure? I feel like you need to just replace your power source or something. Your computer is dying, DC Comics. You shouldn't have to be
turning it off and turning on. Yeah, we did that.
you shouldn't be rebooting this often.
Okay. I don't have anything else.
I got nothing else.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, or good morning, or whatever time of day it is. Daryl Trekkie. Anyway, thanks. Come back again. Watch some of Steve's other videos, and we'll see you around.